Hi there, Steve Kaufman here, Steve of Link, L-I-N-G-Q. Today I want to talk about the learning mindset, or rather the growth mindset when it comes to learning. And I'm going to follow this with another video on the same subject in French. What do I mean? Well, people often come to me and say, gee, Steve, I wish I could learn languages. You're so lucky that you have a gift for languages. I'm lousy at languages. I hear that all the time. So lo and behold, I get an email from my son this morning, and I don't know why he sent it to me, but the title of this is an article by Salman Khan. Salman Khan is an American who has created the Khan Academy, and I'm going to put links here in the description of this video, where he has provided these enormous, fantastic resources for learning maths, physics, and other subjects. And he says, why I'll never tell my son he's smart. Now, I never told either of my sons that they were smart, but he explains why he doesn't reward his son. He doesn't say that he's smart. He praises him when he struggles to do something that's difficult, so that the son learns, that the mind grows if the mind struggles with something that's a little difficult and overcomes the difficulty. And that's how people become good learners, and that's how the mind grows. And Salman Khan makes reference in this article, as I say, I'm going to put a link here, to Dr. Carol Dweck, who has done a lot of research on the subject of what she calls the growth mindset. And she says there are two kinds of learners. There are the closed-minded ones, those who are persuaded they can't do something and will only do things that are easy for them. And then there is the growth mindset that enjoys a challenge, and those are the ones whose minds grow. She has found that most people adhere to one of two mindsets, fixed or growth. Fixed mindsets mistakenly believe that people are either smart or not, that intelligence is fixed by genes. People with growth mindsets correctly believe that capability and intelligence can be grown through effort, struggle, and failure. And I have always felt this way with language. People say to me, oh, Steve, you're so lucky. It must be so easy for you. I have yet to meet someone who puts as much effort into language learning as I do. So my answer is, well, first of all, I'm on my 15th language. But I had to put a lot of effort into my second language and third language and so forth. So why don't you try and then tell me if you aren't in fact expanding your mind and slowly getting better at it. So I think this is, and I'm going to put some additional links here, this idea of the growth mindset. You can Google for growth mindset, and I think it has tremendous application for language learning. People always go on about how, oh gee, I got no talent. And I always respond to this talent thing by saying, well, look at Sweden. Everybody there, Singapore, all these countries, Ethiopia, where lots of people are bi or trilingual. It's not because those people are uniquely talented. It's because for whatever reason, they have committed to learning a language, and therefore their mind has grown and they've become more capable at learning languages. Now, it all boils down to the whole fundamental problem of motivation. If you're not motivated to learn, well, you won't take on the task. But if you are motivated, I mean, and if you can maintain that motivation, you will get better at it. You'll get better at the language, and you will get better at the process of learning a language. For me, of course, motivation is, on the one hand, the desire to do something, and then, of course, you have to overcome the resistance. And if the resistance is too great, then a lot of people will give up, and that's normal. And I think there's this other flow theory where we are most happy when we're taking on a task that's difficult for us, difficult enough, but not too difficult, so that we can actually cope with it. But I think there's also a function there of motivation. So if we're very motivated, we can deal with something that's a little more difficult. If we're not motivated, the slightest difficulty is going to discourage us. That's why when I learn, I avoid tasks that destroy my interest, because much of my motivation is tied to this sense of interest that I have. So I cannot study grammar rules because I find it uninteresting. I can review grammar rules after I've had a lot of exposure to the language. I'm now well into Polish. I've got vocabulary. I can understand lots. I haven't even looked at Polish vocabulary. Now, you can say I have my Ukrainian Russian, that it helps. But still, I know from experience that I'm more motivated to get words in me, to deal with interesting content. And even if initially the content isn't interesting, I'm motivated by the thought that within a month or two, I'll be able to read articles in the newspaper, struggling, but still be able to read articles in the newspaper, listen, not really understand, and listen again and read the transcript, and all of that awaits me, so that's motivating for me. What's not motivating is when I used to study languages and I would get, like a lot of teachers somehow think that children's stories are good for learners. I'm not the slightest bit interested in children's stories, and the vocabulary is not that interesting to me. The subject matter is sometimes, in fact, more difficult than an article on economics. I'm not, again, typically language teachers and people who design textbooks will have stories about native festivals and traditions of Koreans or whoever, and I'm not that very interested in that. So it's very important to me as a learner that I'm able to choose content that's of interest to me. That interest is a motivator. It enables me to overcome difficulties. In fact, it makes it less difficult. So therefore, I'm prepared to take on the challenge, and I'm prepared to, therefore, I have an open mindset, a growth mindset. But maybe I don't have a growth mindset when it comes to learning, I don't know, the piano or something that I'm not intrinsically interested in. So it does boil down to the kind of motivation. But if a person is motivated to learn a language, then to say I am not talented, I think, is not true. You have to create that talent in you. But the question is, are you motivated, and can you find a path, a learning path that will maintain that motivation? And if you can learn if you have a growth mindset. So for those of you who are interested, you can look at the links that I'm going to put in the description. So there you have it. Thanks for listening. I hope you all have a growth mindset. Bye for now.